You work with Andy Gill, obviously. Why did you choose to work with him? Obviously, he's an iconic figure, and Gang of Four, and his sort of legacy. But why did you think he would sort of work well with therapy, and what did he actually bring to the process?
Well, I think with Andy Gill, we'd always. Well, I mean, I'm a massive Killing Joke fan, and he'd done a really, really great Killing Joke record in 2003, which I absolutely loved. And, I was a fan of Gang of Four anyway. I loved his guitar style. And if you listen back to some of our early records, especially on the Nurse album, some of the guitar styles very like Andy Gill, tracks like Deep Sleep and stuff like that. And with what I think we wanted to bring back, and he thought the same thing actually when we met him, was that because the record was more to do with rhythms and it wasn't singer-songwritery, verse, chorus, middle eight. And when we sent him the stuff, he agreed. He thought, because he was very familiar with the band, and he likes the kind of period of the band when the grooves were really prominent. There was a big booming, dirty bass sound, really high snare sound, and like that. He loved all that, and he wanted to bring that back. And I think because he's really, really good with kind of ideas, and he's there's a couple of things that would work. He had a couple of ideas, like singing in my own accent as much as possible, so I didn't kind of go across the Atlantic. Making sure the bass and the drums sounded amazing. And also, one of the things that got lost with therapy was when we started out, we were a rock band, but we'd slightly got our own agenda, with short hair in the middle of the Guns N' Roses stuff, and we weren't a grunge band and everything like this. And there was one bit, we were doing a track on the album Magic Mountain, and what was it he said? The track it's an 8-minute long instrumental, 10-minute long instrumental, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And towards the end, I was putting on a layer of guitar, and I kind of hit this huge big off distortion pedal, and he went, no, we've come this far without going all Sweet Child of Mine, let's not do it now. Which is, and that kind of summed up this kind of ethos really to work in. It was a great deal of restraint in certain areas, and that helped us with our confidence. That doesn't all have to be kind of four to the floor and blazing. You can kind of do it with a great deal of kind of restraint.
Yeah, and you sort of talked there about there is that 10-minute instrumental opus, Magic Mountain, and just in terms of the reference points for the music, I mean Charles Mingus, which people wouldn't think maybe a band like Therapy that would be.
Well, you see, that's one thing that always surprises me, because if anyone knows our first album, Baby Teeth, in 1991, there's a track on there called Loser Cop, which is influenced by John Zorn, and we've got Keith Thompson playing Ornette Coleman style saxophone on it. So people say to me now, Charles Mingus, and we go, well, on Suicide Pact in 1999, with a track called He's Not That Kind of Girl, which was like a kind of George Benson type riff as well, and it's something that's always been there. I think what it means is probably during the band's, for want of a better expression, commercial peak, we were kind of known as kind of melodic punk metal. So maybe people have kind of overlooked some of the stuff that we've done. But the reference point, it's important, I think, to take references from outside. I mean, we are a rock band, that's the instruments we use. The methods we use to push air through the speakers are of a rock background. But the reference points have always been bizarre. That we would take stuff on this record from dubstep. There's a track called Bad Excuse for Daylight, which is based on a kind of benga pattern. And there's also other bits, the track Exiles is completely kind of Code 9 and Cult of the 13th Hour kind of drum pattern, with sort of some of the sonics that we get from this. I mean, it's all done on guitar, so it's not going to sound like a dubstep record. But that's the fun of it. I think if as a guitar player, I love listening to electronic music and listening to things like a couple of chord patterns Stravinsky will use, and maybe take little bits of that, as opposed to listening to Slash and Angus Young and all. Not that there's anything wrong with those people, but I think I'd rather kind of do something which is slightly unusual. I mean, I haven't said that. The record is it's not exactly Unsane or Oxbow or Hair Police. I mean, it's still in the same ballpark as rock.
Yeah. But is that part of the whole sort of fun of it, and what keeps it interesting for you, sort of bringing in these disparate influences? And
well, it has to be, really. Otherwise, I think we'd all get cheesed off a long time ago, really.
Because I could think of nothing worse. We often, when we're talking about doing a tour and picking support bands and things like that, the worst thing I could imagine is two bands on before us that sound like Therapy. Because what's that going to give to the overall vibe? And we've done loads of gigs. You'll meet lads and all wearing Slayer t-shirts. The band sounds like Slayer, and you go into their dressing room and they're listening to Slayer, and I'm going, well, Slayer are still going and they're great. So you know, what's you know, what have they got to get out of it? But I think with us, we're quite, you know, you need that sort of freshness to it. You know, to me, the hellish day would be listening to rock music all day. You need to break up a wee bit, you know.
And are you looking forward to sort of getting out and, you know, bringing the new album out in the road and touring?
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to this one more than I'm looking forward to getting the rehearsals, getting the songs right, and I think touring this record is the most excited I've been for quite a long time, because I think, you know, we'll be able to play a lot of this record in our set, and to be honest, if I'm totally 100% honest, I'm totally cheesed off for the first time ever and playing quite a lot of the old songs. And I think with this album, it's kind of made us reevaluate a lot of our other older stuff. So maybe some of the older stuff we will play will be slightly different. Obviously, I realise that, you know, at the end of the day, whether I like it or not, and it can be as, you know, judgmental as it can be, at the end of the day, we are entertainers. Whether you're in Hair Police or, you know, Oxbow, or whether you're Robbie Williams, at the end of the day, people will want to see certain things, and we like playing those things because it's a great feeling. So I think this album will be very, very well represented, and then we'll pick the rest of the set accordingly.
Well, we saw you live last night at the Ulster Hall, sort of the housewarming since it's been sort of renovated. I think you used up really well sort of quota of expletives for the calendar year there.
And I knew how I knew that as well, because I knew sort of like I got a bit carried away in the moment, and ironically there's not any expletives on our new album. And I was transported back to 10 years ago, but I knew that I'd used them because my mum was still up when I got home at 1:30 in the morning, and I knew that she wasn't happy because she couldn't go to the gigs, so she'd listen to it on the radio. And then, like, you know, we've had various texts about it. I don't know, you know, I actually feel a bit ridiculous now. I'm a 43-year-old man. I shouldn't be going on stage in front of 2,000 people and go bah, 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 bah. But when you've got like 4,000 watts of power behind you, it's a different story.